The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
And hello again, wrestling fans. Welcome to another edition of This Week in History, presented by Scumbags Wrestling. As you know, we are sponsored by Coolbet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. And, of course, we are with Hammerlock Pure Wrestling. If you were at our show this past Saturday in Elmer, Ontario, you were treated to a really great show. If you stayed home and watched the Leafs lose it again, sorry about your luck. Hammerlock Pure Wrestling is there to never disappoint. So next time we're in action, we'll be in Stratford on July 9th and in Strathroy on July 16th. So there's two more opportunities in July to come and visit us at Hammerlock Pure Wrestling. Tickets are always just $20, and you'll get more details as we get closer to the dates. So definitely get out there and support professional wrestling whenever you can, and when it comes to your hometown. We are available on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcast from. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, so you can watch us visually. Spread the word and be a part of our show. scumbagsofwrestling@gmail.com or our website, scumbagswrestling.ca. So there's so many ways you can get in touch with us. And, of course, Facebook is the easiest way. I'm almost instantly answering anything you need to send our way at any time. So we have a full show today. There is a lot of birthdays that went on. And unfortunately, it was also a week of people dying that we're going to get through. Only a few headlines to go, and then a walkload of title changes. So we got a full schedule to run through. Our superstar spotlight is going to be on the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and, of course, Ron Simmons, first African-American champion. But before we get to that, we'll bring in Jonesy as I check on the dog. How are you, Jonesy?
I'm doing fantastic. And I heard you knock that out of the park for the announcing your first time up there as far as live and everything. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was my debut and a few nerves, of course, but I nailed everything I needed to. I know I messed up one or two times what I expected to do, but the crew with Hammerlock were like one big family and supporting each other, and everybody said I did great and looking forward to my next time out. And like I said, it's going to be in Stratford on July 9th. So I invite as many people as possible to attend and, as I said, support professional wrestling whenever you can. But we're talking about history.
That's right. We're not talking about you. We're talking about wrestling history.
Exactly. I made history, but I'm not history. As I said, we have a lot to get through. So without a lot of banter going on to lead into this, let's hit the road running with headlines.
20 years ago, May 13, 2002, on Raw from Toronto, Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair to retain the WWE Undisputed Championship. Interestingly, this is the only nationally TV singles match for the two in the WWE.
And I believe I was at that event.
Nice.
Upper deck of the Skydome.
May 13th, 2007, NWA announced it would end their relationship with TNA due to fees the TNA had refused to pay and wasn't advertising NWA heavily anymore because TNA's national TV deal with Spike TV in 2005. This would be the third major divorce for NWA, as the WWF split in 1963 and WCW split in 93. With the split, Christian Cage and Team 3D are stripped of their NWA World Heavyweight and Tag Team Championships. But don't worry, TNA would just replace them with TNA titles respectively.
Pretty simple.
30 years ago, May 15th, 1992, AAA Lucha Libre Worldwide had its very first show. This promotion began back in 1992 with former CMLL booker Antonio Pena and a hungry roster made up of mostly ex-CMLL talent. AAA would quickly overtake CMLL as the top company in Mexico, and the shutdown of Universal Wrestling Association. AAA translation in English is assistant, consulting, and administration. Wow, kind of sounds boring, doesn't it?
Yeah.
27 years ago, May 15th, 1995, at a Monday Night Raw taping, Hunter Hearst Helmsley made his Raw debut, defeating John Crystal with a standing cutter. The finisher Hunter used that night was an ace cutter, first introduced by Johnny Ace, which, of course, John Laurinaitis. Diamond Dallas Page asked Hunter if he could not use the same finisher as he was using it in WCW, as he was just starting to get over with it in WCW as the Diamond Cutter. Of course, Hunter agreed, and out came the pedigree, a double underhook facebuster. Personally, I think the pedigree is a terrible finisher. It's just not a believable finisher. The way that they do it most of the times, it doesn't look like it would hurt.
Yeah, it all depends on who's taking it. There's some people.
Yeah, I think then definitely
looks really
some
nicely.
could sell it as a hurtful move, but a lot of them that it doesn't look like devastating as a finisher.
Yeah, it's all whoever's willing to do it the proper way.
10 years ago, May 16th, 2010, TNA would rebrand their weekly television show as Impact Wrestling, using the tagline, "Wrestling Matters Again." Interestingly, they had rented some billboard space in the home of the WWE in Stamford, Connecticut. May 17th, 1993, Razor Ramon, as he lost against the 1-2-3 Kid, or sorry, at the time he was just known as the Kid, or the Lightning Kid, a young Sean Waltman who was making a name for himself as, hey, the Lightning Kid, would embrace the bad guy, but getting the pin and earning the name the 1-2-3 Kid. That would set off a feud and future friendship with Razor, and then a couple years later, Waltman ended up in a diaper a few years later by the hands of Razor. And that was one of those awful matches as far as the end. You get put in a diaper.
But they were great friends all the way up to his last days of his life. So
they were. 27 years ago, May 17th, 1995, at a WWF Action Zone taping, Savio Vega makes his WWF in-ring debut with a win over Eli Blue. And I'm taking Shawn in.
Yeah, and 7 years ago, on May 18th, 2005, on Raw from Richmond, Virginia, Kevin Owens made his WWE debut on the main roster, challenging John Cena for the United States Open Challenge. Owens would attack Cena before the match, and it never took place, thus setting up a meeting at Elimination Chamber between the two of them. And for some reason, I cannot find the slide that should be up for this section of the show. But that's
You're fired.
Yeah, I'll be fired. 117 years ago on May 19th, 1905, in New York City in Madison Square Gardens, Tom Jenkins defeated Frank Gotch 2-1 in a best-of-3 falls match to retain the American Heavyweight Championship. The length of the match was close to 2.5 hours. This was one of the reasons why professional wrestling would change in the 30s to predetermined outcomes. This would shorten matches and protect the health of the wrestlers. 33 years ago, on May 19th, 1989, Roadhouse is released in theaters. The film did okay in theaters, but did not do well with the critics. Of course, it was growing popularity over the years to being basically a cult classic. The movie stars Patrick Swayze protecting a roadside bar to fight goons like Terry Funk, who had a role in the movie. The movie spawned a Broadway version in 2003 with a very long title, Roadhouse, the stage version of the cinematic classic that starred Patrick Swayze, except this one stars T-Mark from the 80s cult classic The Last Dragon, wearing a blonde mullet wig. It would also spawn a sequel in 2006 and a remake that was in the works starring Ronda Rousey. May 19th, 1990, RoboCop made his appearance at NWA's Capital Combat to save Sting during the main event. This was a failed crossover promotion for the upcoming release of RoboCop 2. May 19th, 2002, Edge defeated Kurt Angle. I think I have that one. In a hair versus hair match. From that point forward, Kurt would continue to shave his head. He was losing his hair anyway, so this was a perfect opportunity to just get it over and done with. 16 years ago, on May 19th, 2006, WWE Films released its third theatrical film, See No Evil. This film would be a horror thriller starring Glenn Jacobs as Kane. The movie received bad reviews. However, with a $8 million budget, it would bring in $15 million at the box office and crush it with DVD sales of $45 million plus. It also spawned a sequel, direct-to-video, in 2014. Jonesy and I were able to see that. We were up near the front of the theater for this one. It didn't have many people in the theater, mind you, but we were up front for it and laughing every time somebody got killed. I know I was really annoyed with the little delinquents that were invading the hotel and couldn't wait for Jacob Goodnight to come up and tap them on the shoulder and have his way with them. It was definitely a moment worth having because those kids needed to be taken down. Your thoughts on the movie before we move on to our last two headlines?
Yeah, all three of us thought it was fairly good. I thought it was kind of a throwback to the 90s style, but with today's special effects. For their first outing as far as a horror film, I thought it was fairly good. I have not seen the second one, though I do want to, but because I can never remember her name. Anyway, she was in a couple of the Halloween movies.
They did.
All in all, we all thought it was a good outing.
Yeah, their second one, kind of, I'm disappointed in. I didn't see it either, but seeing the poster when I was looking for the pictures for doing this episode, it's basically a see-through Jason mask that he's ended up wearing. And so I'm like, oh, God, you could have come up with something better for this.
Well, maybe the mask is not modeled after the mask of William Shatner. Maybe it was Leonard Nimoy.
Well, Shatner was Halloween and Mike Myers. Yes,
because it was the mask of William Shatner that they modified. They took like the eyebrows out and a few other things, and then spray painted it, and there you go. That's how they got the first mask
for Mike Myers. Yep. 7 years ago, on May 19th, 2005, WWE announces that Matt Bloom, aka Prince Albert, and Sarah Amato, also known as Sarah Del Rey, were promoted to head coaches and assistant head coach, respectively, for the WWE Performance Center. And I think they were a couple that actually have survived a lot of the cuts that WWE did. I'm not sure if Sarah's still there, but definitely Matt is. And our last headline, which I only discovered today after getting ready for the show, was 26 years ago, the infamous curtain call happened in Madison Square Gardens with the Click. Hall and Nash were done with WWE and heading down south to WCW. Shawn Michaels was the current WWF champion, so Triple H took the heat for the incident, which apparently they had gotten permission, but magically people forgot who gave permission and had to get punished because the rest of the locker room was pissed off at them. But
the wrestling locker room should thank them because they helped change how wrestling is perceived and basically helped it survive over the years because of the changes that that generation was able to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then the fact is, I guess it was a good thing he also got punished, because if it wasn't for that, he was going to win King of the Ring. If he won King of the Ring 1996, we wouldn't have gotten the Austin 316 promo, because Steve Austin slid into Triple H's spot there. So everything happened for a reason, and we get Austin, the biggest draw possibly of all time, being created in June with the King of the Ring. And that concludes our headlines for this week, and we'll move into birthdays.
All right, this is birthdays part 1. We start with May 13th. A couple birthdays. Dennis Rodman turns 61. He's still fairly young as far as you think. He back in the 90s, he was huge, and he's only 61, so wow.
And rocking the great dresses in a latest GQ magazine that he was in.
He's a one-of-a-kind celebrity. May 13th, also, Danny Hodge turns 90. I believe he's the man that can crush an apple with his bare hand, and I know he still did it in his 80s.
And take apart pliers.
Sorry?
And take apart pliers with his bare hands.
Oh, yes, that's right. And Glacier turns 58. On May 13th, it's a happy 31st birthday for Elizabeth Chihaya, a.k.a. Scarlett Bordeaux. The musically trained Chicagoan has appeared in about a dozen organizations, including ROH, Shakira, ZZW, TNA, and WWE as one of Adam Rose's Rosebuds. In 2014, PWI included her in the 35 most beautiful women in wrestling. She also has worked as a waitress at the Underground nightclub in Chicago. She once won the DDT Ironman belt from Joey Ryan in 2016. She would trade it to Rhino for an autograph.
Yeah, and then she's married to Killer Cross, and they unfortunately had a great gig going for them in NXT and got released. She didn't even make it up to the main roster like Cross did, and who knows what they would have done with her, considering they gave him a horrible gimmick.
Well, you never know. They could come around again in a few years.
Yep.
May 13th, it's a happy 41st birthday for Korean-American James Carson Young, a.k.a. Jimmy Yang. He would break out in WCW as one-third of the Young Dragons. When WCW was bought out, he would be sent to WWF Developmental Territory Heartland Wrestling until he was released in 2002. After a brief stint in All Japan Pro Wrestling, Yang popped up in total nonstop action as one-third of the Flying Elvises and competed in TNA's first match. He would return to the WWF as a KO, who was part of a KO Dai, the henchman for Tajiri. His third time in the WWE in 2006, he became the Redneck Jimmy Wang Yang, but was released again in 2010. He would eventually open a pro wrestling school and a pest control business in the Cincinnati area.
And I believe he also has a lovely party bus that he drives around in, and he has his daughter, who is now a wrestler as well.
Neat. May 14th, Colonel Robert Parker turns 74. Tommy Rogers would have turned 61. Vader would have turned 67, and Matt Cardona turns 37. On the 15th of May, we got La Parkerita, who would have turned 47. Esperantito 2, Mini Mankind, would have turned 47.
And both of them were twins.
Yes. Kevin Von Erich is still alive, 65, and I only say that because a lot of his family did die at an early age, and we have a lot that would have been their birthdays, and he's in a Von Erich, and he's still on the clock, so that's great to hear. Tom Lawler turns 39. And lastly, on May 15th, it's a happy 63rd birthday for WWE Hall of Famer Ron Simmons. And Sean, if you'd like to go through Ron Simmons' numbers.
Yeah, for sure, because he's part of our spotlight. Ron was born on May 15th, 1958. Before wrestling, he was an All-American defensive tackle for Florida State University. In his 4 years there, FSU went 39-8 with 2 Orange Bowl berths, both losing, unfortunately, to Oklahoma. Good old Jarrett would love that, Boomer Sooner. In 1979, Simmons finished ninth in the Heisman Trophy voting. USC running back Charles White won the award. Simmons, whose number 50 was retired by the school in 1988, was inducted into the College Hall of Fame in 2008. He had a brief career in the NFL, playing 2 seasons for the Cleveland Browns before signing with the USFL for the Tampa Bay Bandits from 1983 to 85. Simmons would go on to wrestle in the NWA, originally as a heel, but quickly turned.
Must be originally as a face.
Yeah, as a face, but then quickly turned heel as one half of the tag team Doom, and they put on the hoods and were managed by Woman briefly, and there was some backstage conversation about that because of the whole implication of a white woman with 2 black guys, and I think eventually Teddy Long got involved instead. I love those early days of WCW. Yeah, anyways, they would win the NWA World Tag Team titles at Capital Combat 90. Doom would hold on to those belts until the transition to WCW on August 2nd, 1992. Simmons would win the NWA World Belt from Vader, making him the first recognized African-American champion title holder in professional wrestling history. Simmons would wrestle briefly in ECW, then make his way to the WWF in the summer of 96, where he would form the Nation of Domination. Of course, he had to wear that stupid gladiator costume and be managed by Sonny first before he got to be himself, and go on to be tag team champion 3 times with JBL. Simmons would be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2012. Damn!
All right. Thank you, Shawn. And he made it through a real tough sentence there. There was a big grammar and bad spelling happening over there. May 16th, Bull, Montana would have turned 135. That's back when wrestling went a hell of a long time. Also,
well, the thing is, just quickly on him, I know people can't see the visual, especially up close, but if you ever Googled this man, he's a guy in the, obviously the black and white photo. He has huge cauliflower ears because of his wrestling at that time. Definitely a different era for him. But he at least showed up all dressed nicely.
Yeah, he looks like quite the gentleman. Also on the May 16th, we got Buddy Roberts turning 77. Dr. Death Steve Williams would have turned 62. Cody Deaner turns 41. Moose turns 38. And Mike Bennett turns 37. And on May 16th as well, it's a happy 61st birthday for Charles White, a.k.a. Papa Shango, or as well, you know him as the Godfather. Yeah. White was a bouncer at a bar while wrestlers filmed Over the Top. He would start with Jerry Lawler's USWA in 1989 as the Soul Taker and briefly held that world belt. After touring in New Japan and the indie circuit, White would join the WWF in 91. He at first would wrestle under the name Sir Charles, a mix of his name and NBA player Charles Barkley. As that flopped in 92, he would get a huge break and become the voodoo practitioner, Papa Shango. Papa Shango would enter the arena carrying a smoke skull and controlled the arena lights. His smoking skull looked cool, but it was a downside in the arenas with poor ventilation. The first half of the match would be done in a thick cloud of smoke. And I got to see that, and it looks awesome, but in those old arenas, not so great. Of course, he went on to become Kama and then hit gold with the Godfather gimmick. Many newsletters like Wrestling Observer called Papa Shango the worst gimmick and embarrassing wrestler in 92. Which I always say bullshit, because I personally thought that the character was great. That's all right. He looked great. It was again ahead of its time.
Imagine Papa Shango brought back during the time of the Ministry of Darkness, the Brood, Mankind, and Kane and all those. He would have fit in perfectly and would have been awesome. And they were just about to pull the trigger on Return of Papa, and then he became Kama Mustafa. Or Kama the Supreme Fighting Machine.
That's one of those characters that, you know what, I would almost like to see them try that character again, but someone different.
They somewhat did with the Boogeyman, but
yes, and actually, yes, the Boogeyman was a little even more cartoonish. I did not like the segment where he ate Lillian Garcia's big zit. That just looked ridiculous. It was like
Jillian Hall's.
It just it was all Jillian Hall. The idea was funny, but they didn't pull it off well because you could tell it was just a big fucking candy stuck on her face. It just looked terrible. Anyways, the character though was great, especially when he put the worms in his mouth. Fantastic. So Papa Shango was ahead of its time. If you ever got to see him live, it was one of the best entrances. And of course, he was a great villain for his time. White would go on to manage Cheetah's Strip Club in Las Vegas. In 2016, White, as the Godfather, was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And if you haven't, take some time and watch him on the WWE Network on Stone Cold Austin's or Ranch, whatever the hell that show was called.
Broken Skull Sessions.
That's it, the Broken Skull Ranch. It is a good watch. All right.
So I'll tag in and we'll do some more birthdays. With May 16th is a happy 83rd birthday to Johnny Rodz. Rodz is a member of WWE Hall of Fame class of 96 and was a mainstay during the WWE's early days working with the NWA Hollywood in the 70s. He would go on to be a trainer at wrestling school in Brooklyn. Some of his students included the Dudley Boys, Matt Stryker, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, and Bill DeMott. May 16th would be the 94th birthday of Alfred Manuel Martin, also known as Billy Martin. Martin was an 11-year Major League Baseball player and would manage the Twins, the New York Yankees, winning the World Series in '77 with the Yankees, and would be the first baseball player to appear at WrestleMania and was the guest ring announcer for the show's main event. Martin was killed in a single vehicle accident when the car he was driving slid off an icy road and down a 300-foot embankment near his farm in Port Crane, New York, on Christmas Day, 1989. He was only 61 years old. Martin was set to manage the Yankees for a sixth time at the time of his death. And the final birthday in this section of our birthdays, May 16th would have been the 103rd birthday of Liberace. The flamboyant Mr. Showmanship. I'm not going to say what his real name is because it's all,
I would butcher it too.
I would butcher it. Had a 5-year career in music entertainment, performing numerous concerts, recording television's motion picture, and endorsements. He won 2 Emmys and 6 gold albums and a pair of stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Of course, Liberace was a guest timekeeper for the main event of the first WrestleMania, and the night before the event, he guest starred on Saturday Night Live with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Liberace would die of
I'm not sure you know to say that one.
on February 4th, 1987.
All right. Let's go to big events. 27 years ago, May 13th, 1995, WWF presented A Night to Remember. This would be the final show at the Boston Garden. A lot of WWF dignitaries were on hand. The Boston Celtics would move to the Fleet Center. Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeated Phil Apollo. Man Mountain Rock, if you remember him with the guitar, defeated Quang. Jeff Jarrett defeated Razor Ramon in a ladder match to retain WWF IC belt. The Undertaker defeated Kama. And Diesel defeated Psycho Sid to retain the WWF Championship. And Gorilla Monsoon was the guest ring announcer. And skipping my mind, Man Mountain Rock was also in WCW as
Max Payne.
That's it, Max Payne. 15 years ago, May 13, 2007, TNA presented Sacrifice. This was the final event under the NWA banner. 11 years ago, May 13th, 2011, New Japan Pro Wrestling holds its first ever show in the United States with Attack on East Coast Day, one from New Jersey. 10 years ago, May 13th, 2012, TNA presented Sacrifice. 28 years ago, May 14th, 1994, ECW presented When Worlds Collide from Philly. 27 years ago, May 14th, 1995, WWF presented the first ever In Your House. The In Your House series would start as a 2-hour pay-per-view with a lower price tag that would fill in the months that didn't already have the Big Four plus King of the Ring. And some lucky fan who was only 11 years old won a house. The house would be sold 6 years later for $170,000.
Yeah, and Gerald Briscoe was the guy assigned to go find a house to buy in Florida.
Nice. I bet you that house is worth a lot now. Bret Hart defeated Hakushi. Razor Ramon defeated Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie. Owen Hart and Yokozuna defeated the Smoking Guns to retain the WWF World Tag Belts. Jerry Lawler defeated Bret Hart, and Diesel defeated Psycho Sid to retain the WWF Championship. 24 years ago, May 14th, 1998, ECW presented It Ain't Seinfeld from the Elks Lodge in Queens. The name was because it was held on the night the TV show Seinfeld aired their last episode. On this show, Taz would introduce the FTW belt.
And that's currently being used by Ricky Starks in AEW.
Nice. 22 years ago, May 14th, 2000, ECW presented Hardcore Haven. 16 years ago, May 14th, 2006, TNA would present Sacrifice. 17 years ago, May 15th, 2005, TNA presented Hard Justice. The show was dedicated to Chris Candido, who died from complications from surgery back on April 28th of that year, just 4 days after suffering a leg injury at Lockdown. 24 years ago, May 16th, 1998, ECW presented A Matter of Respect from Philly. 23 years ago, May 16th, 1999, WWF presented No Mercy England edition from Manchester, England. This event wouldn't be released in North America until January of 2000. 18 years ago, May 16th, 2004, WWE presented Judgment Day from Los Angeles, California. And finally, 15 years ago, May 16th, 2010, TNA presented Sacrifice. And we'll go to Shawn to start the title changes.
Yeah, we begin on 34 years ago, May 13th, 1988, in Texas. Barry Windham defeated Nikita Koloff in the finals of a one-night tournament to win the vacated NWA United States Championship. Other participants in the tournament included Ivan Koloff, Lex Luger, Al Perez, the Midnight Rider, who was unmasked to reveal himself as the Italian Stallion. May 13th, 1994, at Eastern Championship Wrestling taping in Philly, Mikey Whipwreck, who didn't successfully hit an offensive move in this or any match for that matter, defeated Pitbull #1, Gary Wolf, to win the ECW Television Championship. Wolf would be distracted by the Tasmaniac, thus Mikey got a quick pin. Mikey would have 3 successful title defenses on the taping, defeating Kevin Sullivan, Mr. Hughes, and Johnny Grunge, all by disqualification. On May 13th, 2002, Trish Stratus and Bubba Ray Dudley, who was the current hardcore champion, defeated Jazz, the current women's champion, and Steven Richards in a mixed tag team match. With Trish making the pin, she would become the new women's champion. Gotta love wonky rules. May 13th, 2007, Kurt Angle defeated Sting and Christian Cage via submission to win the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. But hold on, Angle is stripped of the title the next night, because Angle had Sting in the ankle lock submission as Sting rolled up Christian Cage. The 3 count and the tap out happened at the exact same time. Too bad about your luck, Mr. Angle. On May 13th, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian defeated Samoa Joe and Magnus to win the TNA World Tag Team Championships. On May 14th, Justin Credible won the ECW Championship, beating his former tag team partner, Lance Storm, who was leaving for WCW. 16 years ago, on May 14th, 2006, Mike Quackenbush defeated B-Boy, Kevin Steen, and Super Dragon in an elimination match to win the CCW Best of the Best 5 tournament. 48 years ago, on May 14th, 1974, Giant Baba defeated Mr. Wrestling in the finals to win the All Japan Pro Wrestling Carnival for the second year in a row. He would go on to win the tournament 8 of the first 10 years, from 1976 to 1976 and 1979 were both won by Abdullah the Butcher instead of Giant Baba. 39 years ago, on May 14th, 1983, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Carlos Colon defeated Ox Baker to win the WWC Heavyweight Championship. 27 years ago, on May 15th, 1995, in Japan, Reggie Bennett defeated Miami Toyota to win the IWA Women's World Championship. May 14th, 2005, AJ Styles defeated Jeff Jarrett to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Tito Ortiz was the special guest referee for this match. May 15th, 2000, Chronic, Brian Adams and Brian Clark defeated Shane Douglas and The Wall, substituting for Buff Bagwell, to win the WCW World Tag Team Championships. On that same card, Crowbar won the WCW Cruiserweight Championship in a mixed tag match when his partner Daphne defeated Tammy Lynn Sitch and then champion Chris Candido, because it was WCW and their rules were stipulated. The male member of the winning team won the title. Also on that show, in the main event, Ric Flair defeated Jeff Jarrett to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. This was the 6th time in title change hands in 5 weeks. You can almost see the writing on the wall with the ring going down. 22 years ago, on May 15th, 2000, on Raw is War from Cleveland, the WWF Hardcore Championship changed hands for a minute. One of the Godfather's hoes pinned Crash Holly, only to lose it back to Crash moments later. Who was that hoe? Sounds like almost a game show there. Was Cynthia Lynch. She had a brief run in TNA as Bobcat in 2002. At the time, it made her the first woman to hold the Hardcore Championship, and joined Chyna as the only woman to hold a men's title in the WWF. Of course, that changed later on, where other women were winning the Hardcore title, including Trish Stratus and Molly Holly, just to name a few. And I'm going to wrap up the titles on this side of things with 18 years ago, May 15th, 2004, in Lexington, Massachusetts, the Second City Saints, CM Punk and Colt Cabana defeated the Briscoes, Jay and Mark, to win the ROH Tag Team Championships. 16 years ago, on May 15th, 2006, on Raw from Texas, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Masters, and Triple H defeated John Cena, Rob Van Dam in a handicapped Texas Tornado Rules match. The pre-match stipulation for this, however, stated that whoever got the winning fall, if they pinned a wrestler who was a champion, would win that championship. Shelton Benjamin got the winning fall on Rob Van Dam, so he won the WWE Intercontinental Championship. John Cena's WWE Championship was also at stake in this match. 58 years ago, on May 16th, 1964, in Omaha, Vern Gagne defeated Mad Dog Vachon to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship for the 7th time. 35 years ago, on May 16th, 1987, from Atlanta, Georgia, the Midnight Express Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane defeated Ronnie Garvin and Barry Windham to win the vacated NWA United States Tag Team titles. 22 years ago, on May 16, 2000, at a SmackDown taping in Detroit, Gerald Briscoe defeated Crash Holly to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. And our last one before going to the Monday Night Wars is on May 16th, 2010. Doug Williams defeated Kazarian to win the TNA X Division Championship.
All right. Thank you, Sean. We're now going to go to the Monday Night Wars, and it is May 19th, 1997. First, we'll see what's over on Raw, and then go to Sean for WCW. The May 19th, 97 edition of Raw, which took place on May 19th, 97 at the Mobile Civic Center in Mobile, Alabama. On the card, we saw Hunter Hearst Helmsley with China defeat Crush with Clarence Mason, D'Lo Brown, and Savio Vega in a King of the Ring 97 first round match. And that match went almost 4 minutes. Bob Holly defeated Owen Hart with Jim Neidhart and the British Bulldog on the outside. And that match went 3 minutes and 38 seconds. Scott Taylor defeated Leif Cassidy. And that was 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Rockabilly with the Honky Tonk Man. Oh, poor Rockabilly. Defeated Goldust with Dakota Reynolds and Marlena by DQ in about 4 minutes. Farouk with Clarence Mason crushed D'Lo Brown and Savio Vega. Back in those times, they had a lot of people coming to the ring. When people wrestled in the ring, they had a lot of entourage.
I was getting ready for gang warfare.
Yes, he defeated Rocky Maivia in 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Steve Austin defeated Jim Neidhart by DQ in 1 minute and 51 seconds. The dark match is on the card. Steve Austin and Legion of Doom defeated the Hart Foundation, being Brian Pillman, Owen Hart, and the Bulldog. And the last dark match was The Undertaker, who was champion at the time, defeating Mankind. Over on WCW.
Yeah, this was about a year after the NWA or NWO storyline began. That's why I picked this episode, because see where they were after a year at that point. It happened from the Asheville Civic Center in Asheville, North Carolina. It's a town you really don't hear much of unless you're probably from that area. Steven Regal, who was champion, defeated Prince Ikea to retain the WCW World Television Championship. Masahiro Chono defeated Squire David Taylor. Scotty Riggs defeated Michael Wallstreet. The Steiner brothers defeated Jeff Jarrett and Steve McMichael. And the main event saw Ric Flair defeat Six by disqualification. I really don't see many appearances by NWO on this episode, except for obviously Six.
Yeah, my guess is they were probably started off the show with a lot of blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah. Probably a lot of talking with everybody doing that, which is interesting that they weren't so prominent at almost their anniversary. I think, what is it? It's either next week or in 2 weeks. We'll look back at the Monday night where Scott Hall appeared and started the Monday Night Wars in the version we normally are used to seeing it as that, even though the war actually started when they were at the Mall of America in 95. But it didn't pick up steam until the NWO started. So we'll see what happened on that show.
And has there been any news on AEW? I believe it was AEW that was looking to do a show in the Mall of America.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that yet, but they're still trying to get they got to get to the West Coast. They do a lot of mid America and a lot of East Coast, but you hardly hear them going to the West. So they have to still migrate over that way before even trying some of these other things that they're doing.
All right, I'd say both shows are fairly equal as far as what you're seeing in the ring. some of the matches, yuck on both sides. Other matches, like I've seen the Ric Flair 6-1 a few times, it's fairly good. Anything with Michael Wall Street, no offense to the man, but the Michael Wall Street character was just one of those WWF, ripoffs. Let's just change the name and yuck.
Yeah, I don't think either of these shows were basically lighting the world on fire and raising up the numbers. I would have to go back and check and see what the ratings were really on these ones. But this was probably if you have your remote control, you can go back and forth and just click between the shows and not miss anything.
Definitely. All right, we're going to go to the big events now. These next four are all May 17th. 30 years ago in 92, WCW presented Wrestle War. 24 years ago in 98, WCW presented Slamboree 98. And 13 years ago, in 2009, WWE presented a Judgment Day pay-per-view. And 10 years ago, NXT 2012 held its very first TV taping from Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. Some of the matches on that card was Xavier Woods defeating Dean Ambrose. Seth Rollins defeated Euro. Leo Kruger defeated Aiden English by submission. The Ascension, Conor O'Brien and Kenneth Cameron defeated the Usos. Antonio Cesaro defeated Dante Dash. Seth Rollins defeated Camacho. And Jinder Mahal defeated Derek Bateman by submission.
An interesting,
sounds like a pretty good card. 8 years ago, May 17th, 2014, Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling co-presented War of the Worlds from New York City. Also on the 17th, 7 years ago, 2015, WWE presented Payback from Baltimore. 30 years ago, May 18th, 92, WWF taped the 300th episode of Wrestling Challenge Cincinnati in Cincinnati, Ohio. Debuting in September 1986, one day after its sister show, WWF Superstars of Wrestling debuted. Wrestling Challenge would recap recent events and air mostly squash matches. The show would end in September of 96 after 10 years. 25 years ago, May 18th, 97, WCW presented Slamboree 97. 19 years ago, on that same date, May 18th, 2003, WWE presented Judgment Day. The event is noted for the return of the WWE Intercontinental Championship. It was unified with the World Heavyweight Championship the previous September, then deactivated. 14 years ago, May 18, 2008, WWE presented Judgment Day from Omaha, Nebraska. 32 years ago, May 19th, 1990, NWA presented Capital Combat 1990. Also on May 19th. Sorry?
Yeah, I was going to just run this one down because it's a little bit longer on that one. 31 years ago, on May 19th, 1991, there was the Super Brawl 91 from St. Petersburg, Florida. El Gianti defeated Sid Vicious in what was supposed to be a stretcher match. The match lasted only 2 minutes, and the stretcher was never used. Already screwing things up, and they were only in 1991. Gianti put Sid in a claw hold, and Sid just walked away while Kevin Sullivan and One Man Gang attacked Gianti. This was Sid's final bout in his run with WCW. He was already WWF bound and probably heading to the softball pitch. This event was also the debut of Oz. This is the full version of the entrance with a cast of Oz, including a monkey and the finisher of Nash with a spinning drop. It's an awesome show that missed the mark. The production of the entrance was top-notch for its time. And, it was basically the same rubber mask for the Wizard and also Oz. And the little wizard, the type person that had the monkey leading Oz to the ring was actually Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, but they put the dunce cap part on the mask for Nash. But he said if he got paid $1 for every pound that thing weighed between the mask and the cape, he would be really rich. That was said on like a dinner for three or a table for three thing with Hall, Nash, and Waltman. Anyways, to finish that one off, 26 years ago, May 19th, 96, he presented Slamboree 96. Slamboree had a tournament called Lord of the Ring, Lethal Lottery. This is what I thought was longer. So, which was basically the rules of Battle Bowl 91 and 93. I love Battle Bowl. I think somebody needs to bring it back at least once. Wrestlers were randomly paired together to compete in a tag team match. Teams that won 2 matches advanced in the Battle Royal for the Lord of the Ring title and, a ring. Go figure. Lord of the Ring semifinals saw Dick Slater and Earl Robert Eaton defeat Jim Duggan and VK Wall Street. The Public Enemy, Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock, defeated Randy Savage and Ric Flair by countout. Diamond Dallas Page and the Barbarian defeated Rick Steiner and the Booty Man. In the finals, Diamond Dallas Page defeated Dick Slater, Robert Eaton, Ice Train, Johnny Grunge, Rocco Rock, Scott Norton, and the Barbarian in a battle royal to win the Lord of the Ring tournament and the title shot. Or so we thought. Footage would show the Barbarian eliminated Page when one of Page's feet hit the floor. In WCW, only one foot had to hit the floor. Page would get the ring for some reason, but he didn't get the match. He would lose the title shot in the end. The Giant defeated Sting to retain his WCW World Heavyweight Championship to end the show. And 20 years ago, May 19th, 2002, WWE presented Judgment Day 2002 from Nashville, Tennessee. This was the first pay-per-view following the name change from WWF to WWE. And now for some sad times in our life, the deaths.
Yay, I get to read the deaths. Or you might get some of these because, no, you can do the next segment. I thought it was longer. Deaths, May 14th, 2021. New Jack would have turned 58. I think he died. I don't even, that there's a little confusion there. But anyways.
He died.
Yeah, he died.
He died at the age of 58.
That's it. 38 years ago, May 16th, 1984, actor Andy Kaufman dies of lung cancer in Los Angeles, California. He was 35. Kaufman, of course, will be remembered best for his SNL appearances, being the lovable Latka Graves on Taxi, and would have a long time running feud with none other than Jerry the King Lawler that even continued long after his death. It wasn't until the release of the movie Man on the Moon that it was confirmed that it was a work all those years. And thank you very much. 20 years ago, May 16, 2002, Shoichi Araya was found dead in Mizuto Park in Tokyo, Japan. He would hang himself with a necktie. Ari was just 35. He bought FMW from founder Toshi Naida. Ari would phase out what he was famous for, the death style match. Though it led to a safer work environment, it would lead to a decline in attendance and draw. In October, the company's major star Hayabusa would break his neck in a match in October 2001. FMW would close in February of 2002 and have a debt of over $3 million and another $1 million plus to Yakuza group. I would never want to owe money to. Ara would hang himself and his ex-wife would use the insurance money to pay off the Yakuza. However, it wasn't enough and the Ari family would still be paying the debt off for years to come. May 16, 2002, Big Dick Dudley died at the age of 34. May 16th, 2019, Ashley Massaro dies at the age of 39.
She also hung herself.
Oh, bummer. May 17th, 2020, Shad Gaspard died. He was 39, and I believe he is the Warrior winner and the guy who saved his son I'm not sure if it was an ocean or a lake, probably an ocean.
Yeah, he was a real-life hero.
Yes. May 18th, 2002, Davey Boy Smith would die at the age of 39. David Smith was born November in 1962, was an English professional wrestler born in Goulburn, Lancashire. Smith is best known for his appearances in the United States with the World Wrestling Federation under the ring names Davey Boy Smith and the British Bulldog. He was trained by Ted Betley in Winwick, England, before relocating to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, to further his training under the guise of Stu Hart. While training with Hart, Smith met Stu and Helen Hart's youngest daughter, Diana, whom he married on the 7th of October in 1984. Their son, Harry, is also an accomplished professional wrestler who wrestled and won Tag Team Gold in WWE, NJPW, and Pro Wrestling Noah. Smith won titles within the WWE in 3 decades, from 1980s all the way to the 2000s. He headlined multiple pay-per-view events for the WWF and WCW, which included matches for the WWF and WCW World Heavyweight Championships. Smith also defeated his real-life brother-in-law, Bret Hart, for the WWF Intercontinental Championship in a very memorable main event of SummerSlam 92 at London's Wembley Stadium, in front of a alleged 80,355 fans. Hart considers this to be his best match. He was the inaugural WWF European Champion and holds the records for longest single reign at 206 days and total days as champion at 253. He also held the title on the sole occasion where a match for that championship headlined a pay-per-view event at One Night Only in 97. Prior to finding singles success, Smith achieved stardom as one half of the British Bulldogs tag team alongside his cousin, Dynamite Smith, who was inducted in the 2020 WWE Hall of Fame by his son and his former wife, I believe. Yes?
Yes, and daughter.
Wow. And daughter, there you go.
So yeah, just quickly to finish off some of this with Davey Boy before we go back to some more title changes. He's Canadian Wrestling Hall of Fame individually and as part of the Hart family. Stampede Wrestling Hall of Fame in 95. WWE Hall of Fame, as Chris just said, in 2020. He was one-time IWA Heavyweight Champion, 4-time Stampede Tag Team Champion, 1-time Stampede British Commonwealth Heavyweight Champion, 2-time Stampede North American Champion, a 2-time European Champion, 1-time Intercontinental Champion, 2-time World Tag Team Champion with his cousin Dynamite Kid, and the other time with his brother-in-law Owen Hart. Wrestling Observer Newsletter gave him the feud of the year with the Harts versus Steve Austin in 97. He also got the tag team of the year from the Wrestling Observer in 85. PWI named him the match of the year versus Bret in 92 and ranked him number 15 in the PWI 500 in their list for 1993. So a lot of accomplishments gone way too soon at the age of 39. So rest in peace, Davey Boy Smith.
All right, on the title changes, I'll do 4 of these, and then Sean will take over. 12 years ago, May 17th, 2010, on Raw from Toronto in 2010, Bret Hart, with the help from the Hart Dynasty, defeated The Miz, who had help from Jericho, Kozlov, and Regal, via submission in a no DQ match to win the WWE United States Championship. It was back in 99 that Bret won his last major title, WCW's World Belt. 11 years ago, May 17, 2011, at an Impact Wrestling taping, Eric Young defeated Gunner to win the TNA television TV belt. 59 years ago, May 17, 1963, in New York City, Bruno Sammartino defeated Buddy Rogers in just 48 seconds to win the WWF Championship. He would hold on to this belt for 2,803 days, which is still a record today in the WWE. And before my tag to my partner, 36 years ago, May 17th, 1986, Playboy Buddy Rose and Pretty Boy Doug Smothers defeated Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig by countout to win the AWA World Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, they had quite the feud on that. And if you go back to one of the Shawn Michaels DVDs that were put out, there is some of that footage of that feud between the Midnight Rockers and Rose and Summers. So good stuff. And I believe Sherry was also involved. Anyways, carrying on with some of the other title changes. 36 years ago on May 17th, 1986 in Maryland, Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors defeated Baron Von Raschke and the Koloffs to win the NWA Six-Man Tag Team Championships. May 17th, 1992, the Freebirds defeated Terry Taylor and Greg Valentine to win the WCW United States Tag Team Champions. May 17th, 1993, on Monday Night Raw from New York City, Marty Jannetty returns and finally gets some sweet revenge against his former tag team partner, Shawn Michaels, by winning the Intercontinental Championship. On May 17, 1998, Dean Malenko would get his revenge on Chris Jericho, as Dean would win the WCW Cruiserweight Champion via submission. Sting and the Giant defeated the Outsiders to win the WCW World Tag Team Championships as well on that same show. May 17, 2014, Red Dragon defeated the Young Bucks, and they're all now part of the, I want to say the Undisputed Elite or something like that over in AEW with Adam Cole to win the ROH World Tag Team Championships. On May 18th, 97, Steven Regal defeated Ultimo Dragon via submission to win the WCW World Television Championship. May 18th, 2003, Eddie Guerrero and Tajiri defeated Team Angle in a ladder match to win the WWE Tag Team Championships. Christian also eliminated Booker T in an over-the-top rope battle royal to win the vacant WWE Intercontinental Championship. May 18th, 2005, at a SmackDown taping in Las Vegas, Chavo Classic, also known as Chavo Guerrero Sr., defeated his son Chavo Jr. and Spike Dudley in a triple threat match to win the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. May 18th, 2008, The Undertaker defeated Edge by countout in a match for the vacated World Heavyweight Championship. 41 years ago, on May 19th, 1981, Nick Bockwinkel is officially awarded the AWA World Heavyweight Championship 9 days after losing it to a retiring Vern Gagne. This is not the first time Bockwinkel lost a championship match while champion and be given back the title. Hulk Hogan and Jerry Lawler both won the AWA World title in 1982, Hogan in April and Lawler in December, but both times the championship was held up and eventually reverted back to Bockwinkel. May 19th, 1990, the Midnight Express defeated Brian Pillman and Tom Zenk to win the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. Doom defeated the Steiner Brothers to win the NWA World Tag Team Championships. May 19th, 1991, the Fabulous Freebirds defeated the Young Pistols to win the vacant WCW United States Tag Team Championship. May 19th, 1991, Bobby Eaton and Arn Anderson would win the defeated Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton did, to win the WCW Television Championship. Ric Flair defeated Tatsumi Fujinami to unify the WCW and NWA World Heavyweight Championships. On May 19th, 1995, in Montreal, Razor Ramon defeated Jeff Jarrett in a ladder match to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship. And just a few more here before we get back to birthdays and wrap up our show for this week. May 19th, 2002, William Regal defeated D'Lo Brown for the WWE European Championship. Rikishi and Rico defeated Billy and Chuck to win the WWE Tag Team Championships. And Undertaker defeated Hulk Hogan to win the WWE Undisputed Championship. This is actually, I think, a record that nobody actually beat Hulk Hogan twice for titles, and Undertaker is the only person really to do so, especially in WWE. He did it twice. 18 years ago, May 19th, 2004, at NWA TNA pay-per-view in Nashville, Tennessee, Ron Killings defeated AJ Styles, Chris Harris, and Raven in a deadly draw match to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Just to imagine, R-Truth was a former NWA champion. Mind-blowing. And our final title change on this week's episode, May 19th, 2013, Dean Ambrose defeated Kofi Kingston to win the WWE United States Championship, while also The Shield defeated Team Hell No in a Texas Tornado Rules match to win the WWE Tag Team titles. So The Shield had all the gold that night. To finish off with some birthdays.
Birthdays part 2, May 17th. We got some birthdays. Woman Nancy Benoit would have turned 58. Cedric Alexander turns 33. Jackie Fargo turns 94. A lot of your grandparents would know that guy. And it's a happy 48th birthday for Alexander Wright, or simply Alex Wright. Just a little bit about him. He started wrestling at the age of 16 after being trained by his father and British wrestler Steve White. He would be picked up by WCW while on a German tour billed as Das Wunderkid, German for a prodigy. White would spend the first year undefeated in WCW. His WCW pay-per-view debut would be a win over Jean-Paul Levesque, of course, later Triple H. After WCW closed its doors, he was not picked up following the sale of WCW to WWF and partly retired from active competition. Wright would open his own wrestling school, the Wright Stuff, in his hometown of Newburgh. All right, May 17th, it's a happy 35th birthday to Daniel Marshall Wheeler, a.k.a. Dash Wilder. May 17th, it's a happy 73rd birthday for twin referees Earl and Dave Hebner. I'd like to see him in the Hall of Fame, but it probably will never happen, maybe after their deaths. But with at least one of the brothers ripping them off, probably not. I do think they should have a Hall of Shame, maybe, for these guys that, are a big part of their history, but they, did a bad thing.
Earl is at least in the TNA Hall of Fame.
Yes. May 18th, we got a bunch. Bobcat turns 51. Colton Gunn turns 31. Gary Albright turns 59. Kaz Hayashi turns 49. It's a happy 49th birthday to Brian Daniel Heffron, a.k.a. inspired by the creatures from the animated film Yellow Submarine, the Blue Meanie. Also on the 18th would have been the 79th birthday to James Wiley Smith, a.k.a. Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Also on the 19th, Psychosis turns 51. Jean Brasson, or otherwise known as Hollywood, turns 59. Cousin Luke of the Bushwhackers turns 73. Tom Phillips turns 33. That was one of WWF's reporters, I believe.
Yeah, he's currently doing commentating. I didn't put down his new name, but he is a commentator for Impact Wrestling right now.
All right. Good to see him still getting work. Excellent. Also on the 19th, Kip Saban turns 30. Dirty Dick Slater turns 71. Also on the 19th, Tommy End, also known as Alistair, and Malachi Black. I know I messed up the second name there. Alistair. Yes, turns 37. And May 19th would have been the 76th birthday of Andre Rene Rousseff. Of course, the 8th wonder of the world, and there's not enough time to talk about that Grenoblin from France who was born on May 19th, 1946. Of course, he would go into the Hall of Fame as the first guy to go in, and that was in the year of, I'm not sure, 93 maybe?
1993.
There you go. Perfect. And that is it for this week in wrestling history. Of course, it's compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CageSideSeats.com, and most importantly, from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history. And a big thank you to one of our sponsors, Coolbet, coolbet.com, and sportsbook betting and casino games. Stay cool and bet responsibly. And of course, if you did bet on that Rose Bowl race, which was I think last week, the biggest underdog in that on that race won. So if
the Kentucky Derby,
you would have done okay. So of course, stay cool and bet responsibly. And a shout out to all of our Johners listeners and everyone else who listens to us, whether it's from England, here in Canada, or down in Texas.
Yeah, and of course, our other sponsor, Hammerlock Pure Wrestling, bringing back the golden age of professional wrestling. Don't mistake us for independent wrestling. We are professional wrestling. Whenever you get a chance to see us in action, come and see us. I'll be doing ring announcing, and we do have cards coming your way in Stratford, July 9th, and Strathroy, July 16th. Tickets are always just $20, and we're family-friendly entertainment, and from kids to grandparents and everything in between. Come on out and enjoy the golden age of professional wrestling. That's with Hammerlock Pure Wrestling, and we hope to see you soon. After that, I'm looking forward to seeing what we have next week on the show. Anything else you want to shout out before we leave?
Not that I can think of. Not this week.
Okay, well, we want to wish
everybody... messages from me.
That's all good. We want to wish everybody a great week, and we'll see you next time on This Week in History.